The next product I'm going to talk about is the Herradura Reposado. It's an iconic square bottle with the horseshoe. The brand Herradura is challenging for Americans because it's got the silent H and the double rolled R. And again, I don't pretend to always be able to pronounce it correctly, so you will often hear this brand anglicized as Herradura. Really nice premium packaging, and I really like the kind of short squatter bottles. Herradura Reposado is credited with being the first Reposado tequila available commercially, created in 1974. And compared to the silver, which is aged 45 days in barrel, the Reposado is aged 6 months in charred American white oak barrels, and those barrels are going to have a medium toast and a medium level char before being bottled at 80 proof or 40% ABV for the United States market. Previously, I made a video where I covered the 3 silver tequilas from Brown-Forman: El Jimador Silver, Herradura Silver, and Herradura Blanco. And in that video, I walked through the production process for the Herradura brand because it's a brand that is very traditional and does everything the right way. And I think nowadays it is very important to highlight that. So I'm going to cover that same material again right now. Tequila Herradura is distilled at the last tequila producing hacienda in Mexico. And if you're unfamiliar with what makes something legally an hacienda, it has to follow several different criteria. I talk about that a bit more in detail on an article that I wrote for my website, and I'll link that below in the description. I'm going to be referencing some notes regarding the production process for the brand. So, Tequila Herradura is a ultra premium tequila made from 100% blue weber agave with no added sugar. Casa Herradura maintains millions of agave plants carefully harvested once they've reached their peak maturity. The agave is grown in the volcanic lowlands of Amatitan. You'll often hear the terms lowlands as an anglicized description for El Valle. On this channel, I typically prefer to use the Spanish terms El Valle for what is often called the lowlands and Los Altos for what is often called the highlands. The agave is grown in the volcanic soil of El Valle in the region around Amatitan. Where the agave grows is important as the flavor takes on the characteristic of the soil. Tequila Herradura's signature taste is a classic example of a lowland style tequila, or a tequila from El Valle, spicy, herbaceous, and complex. The agave is harvested by jimadores, who patiently wait 7 to 8 years on average for the plants to become perfectly ripe before harvesting their piñas or cores. And the term piñas is used for describing the agave core because once the skilled jimador trims off all the parts of the agave plant that are not needed for cooking, fermentation, and distillation, the agave core resembles a pineapple, so the Spanish word piña is often used rather than agave core. Jimadors harvest the agave plants with coas. So that's C-O-A. The coa is a jimador's tool for harvesting the piñas, a curved, sharpened blade on a long wooden handle. The process requires both skill and strength from the jimadores. And if you're unfamiliar with what a koa looks like, I'll put a picture up on the screen. Every day, the harvested agave is hand-stacked in traditional clay ovens, which can hold up to 40 tons of agave. The agave is slowly steamed for up to 26 hours until the starches are turned into sugars and then cooled in the ovens for an additional 9 hours. After the oven, the cooked agave is milled twice. This produces a rich, sweet liquid known as agave nectar, or mosto. This sugary liquid is later fermented and then distilled into the final tequila. Casa Herradura uses a 100% natural fermentation process. There are over 16 different species of fruit trees on the hacienda grounds, and they add their own unique strain of airborne yeast to the open fermentation tanks. So I think this is an area where I really want to highlight open air, natural, or ambient yeast fermentation. Open air natural fermentation is something that is typically never seen in large-scale tequila production. It's very common in mezcal. You hear a lot about ambient yeast and natural fermentation in the wine world. You almost never hear about it in the tequila world, especially for brands like Herradura that are produced on such a large scale. This is really cool and I think really sets the brand apart. Most brands are inoculating their must with some sort of commercial strain of yeast so that they can have consistency in the fermentation process before distillation. So to have something like this where you have that almost like terroir aspect, where this product, the fermentation becomes uniquely tied to the sense of place that is the distillery at Casa Herradura. The tequila is double distilled and the heads and tails are separated, preserving what's called the heart or the best cut of the distillate. Only the best alcohol for a better quality product that preserves its complex flavor. If you're unfamiliar with heads and tails, so in the process of distillation, there are certain other kind of volatile compounds that are generated, and they appear at the beginning of the distillate and at the end of the distillate. So brands will cut what they call the heads, the first part of the distillate, and the tails, which contain these unpleasant volatile compounds that are generated during distillation, and that leaves what's called the heart, or the center cut of the distillate, which is going to have the best tasting distillate. Casa Herradura uses traditional alembic stills, also known as pot stills, to help retain each flavor note. Each batch of tequila is meticulously reviewed by a panel of tequila experts to ensure it is up to the brand's world-renowned standards. The Reposado is aged for 6 months in 55-gallon charred American white oak barrels. As I mentioned earlier, those barrels are going to receive a medium toast as well as a medium char. Herradura is the only tequila that produces its own barrels, giving the tequila a more robust signature flavor. So if you know anything about parent company Brown-Forman, they prioritize their barrels. The Louisville-based company historically owned and operated 2 cooperages in the United States. Historically, they operated a cooperage in Louisville where that produced barrels for Old Forester Bourbon and Woodford Reserve Bourbon. Unfortunately, that cooperage has been closed recently with some of the cuts that the company has done. And then they operated a second cooperage in Alabama that produced barrels for just the Jack Daniel's brand. And then I believe they operate, I don't know if it's considered a cooperage, but they operate a barrel facility in Jalisco, which services barrels. I don't think they're building barrels from scratch, but I think, you know, with all these American whiskey brands, Jack Daniel's, Old Forester, Woodford Reserve, that are only using those barrels once by law, then a lot of those barrels go to Mexico, and perhaps they might be retoasted or recharred, repaired, rebuilt. And so I believe they have some sort of barrel facility in Jalisco that services barrels specifically for the El Jimador and Herradura brands. Finally, all Herradura is estate bottled, and the signature horseshoes are carefully hand applied. If you know anything about horseshoes and luck, then you would know that the horseshoe on the front of the bottle is turned upside down, which could be considered unlucky. But when you turn the bottle upside down to serve yourself or serve some friends, the message is luck is given to those that pour, and more importantly, pour Herradura tequila. All right, enough talking about it. Let's taste it. And this might be hard to tell on camera, but that beautiful color is just a little darker and a little more recognizable than the shade of color from the El Jimador, which I guess should be no surprise. Again, I'm going to be referencing the tasting notes from the brand, and the color is going to be described as rich amber with shades of copper from over 6 months in American white oak barrels. And I would definitely say that is an accurate color description. Compared to the El Jimador Reposado, as soon as I poured this, the aroma is kind of already jumping out of the glass. So now they describe the aroma as warm notes of anise, fruit, and spices come through the central aroma of cooked agave. Much bigger nose, way bigger nose compared to the El Jimador Reposado. I mean, you're definitely getting lot of cooked agave flavors, but you're getting some very strong aromas of fruit and spice. I would say, I'm not sure if I'm getting the anise. You could maybe say it's in there, but definitely like cooked agave flavors, still the dominant flavor, but right underneath in a very nice supporting role, but not quite the dominant flavor, is that fruit and spice. So nice balance between all 3 flavors. Now the flavors on the palate are described as surprisingly smooth. Vanilla and butter are peppered in the sweet cooked agave. Let's give it our first taste. Oh yeah. Good, really nice flavor on the palate. Smooth, like smooth often gets overused. Smooth, when I think of smooth, I think of drinkability. But this, I would say, it's certainly very pleasant to drink, but there's more complexity where I almost don't want to use this word smooth. I feel like smooth kind of sells this short. Vanilla, there is that little subtle butter, but you're definitely getting vanilla, a little pepper, but it's sweet cooked agave and vanilla. So like cooked agave and barrel. I would say that is a very accurate description of this first sip. And again, tequila is always like a spectrum. And so just on this first sip, it kind of sits very nicely right in the middle, 50-50. Cooked agave, barrel flavors. So let's revisit it. Oh yeah. I would say still, not a big change, sip one to sip two. Again, my mouth is already kind of acclimated to the alcohol. The alcohol in this, against the same proof, 80 proof for 40% ABV here in the United States, and it's very well integrated. And I would say we're still in that kind of 50-50 ground. Cooked agave, barrel flavors. And in this case, I would say that barrel flavor is very much vanilla. There's not really that spice that I kind of got, like baking spice you get from the barrel. I'm not quite getting that on the palate. There's a little of that pepper undertone that supports the sweet agave, but a lot of times when tequila is described as peppery, it's almost more herbaceous, like black pepper or green bell pepper. But I would say sweet cooked agave. Again, this is El Valle agave, so there is going to be a bit of earthiness to this. Don't forget that the brand is exclusively using agave sourced from El Valle, which is going to be that stereotypical spicy herbaceous flavor profile. I would say on this, you have a good balance of the strong agave flavors with the flavors from the barrel. And there's strong barrel flavors here. And I think, again, Brown-Forman specializes in American whiskey. Jack Daniel's, Old Forester, Woodford Reserve. These are brands that are incredibly barrel forward. And for the American palate that normally drinks bourbon, that normally drinks Tennessee whiskey, that normally drinks rye, I think drinking Brown-Forman tequilas, especially Herradura, with the way that they strategically use their barrels to influence the final flavor profile, I think it's very well done, and it's going to be very appealing to the American palate. I drink a lot of bourbon, a lot of rye, a lot of Tennessee whiskey, but I also love tequila and other agave spirits. And so I've always found the Herradura brand is a nice sweet spot for me because there is very strong barrel flavors, but they're done well. And they're done with a bit of finesse where it's not just this bomb of vanilla or bomb of flavors. Again, these are going to be additive-free tequilas. And for me, it is always that Goldilocks of agave flavors with barrel flavors. So let's touch on the finish. The finish is described as smooth and sweet with a hint of spice to keep things interesting. I would definitely say smooth and sweet, much longer finish than you get with El Humidor. And again, that kind of sweetness, and when I say sweetness, I'm talking about like roasted agave sweetness. Again, there's no added sugar. And a little bit of spice from that barrel, the little lingering barrel flavors. I would say it's very accurate. Again, this is very much barrel and agave, perfect Goldilocks, 50-50, very well integrated, very well done, very enjoyable for someone that drinks a lot of tequila but also drinks a lot of bourbon. And for me, that's why I love well done, super premium Reposado tequilas. All right, let's talk about pricing. In my home market of Oklahoma, this product is going to retail somewhere between $48 and $52 for a 750 milliliter bottle. Is that worth the money? So we're getting to almost $50 or $50 for a 750 milliliter bottle of super premium Reposado. I think this is definitely worth it. And let me tell you why. As I mentioned earlier, this product is a perfect bridge product for someone who is already drinking both bourbon and tequila. They always say the añejo is the bridge product for the bourbon drinker, someone that wants all barrel or a ton of barrel. Again, right now we're at 50-50 barrel and agave flavors. When you get to the añejos, they're a lot more, 70-30. It's almost all barrel flavors with kind of subtle undertones of agave flavors. So for me, the Reposado, we're still 50-50. I think that is the perfect sweet spot for your bourbon drinker. Because if your bourbon drinker likes tequila, they still want some agave flavors. And so, again, maybe you have tried some of these entry level tequilas like El Jimador. You think, hey, these are perfect for cocktails. These are perfect for mixed drinks. But it's simple and to the point, and I now want something with more flavor, with more complexity, something I can enjoy neat, something I can enjoy maybe with just a little bit of soda. And so I think that's where you get that trade up from Jose Cuervo or El Jimador to Herradura. And again, Herradura is competing in that kind of super premium price point with Don Julio and with Patron and with a ton of other brands. And so, there's a lot of competition at this price point, and there's more and more brands that are appearing every single day. And so I think for the American palate, and again, I live here in the United States, I'm speaking specifically for the kind of stereotypical American palate. I think this brand is definitely worth the money. Again, if you want that beautifully well integrated combination of barrel flavors and agave flavors from a brand with a ton of history, I usually try to stay away from the word authentic or authenticity because I feel like it is often overused or perhaps misused or misappropriated. But I think this brand has a great lineage. And yes, it is owned by an American company, but I think it perfectly does cater to the American palate, and it's very enjoyable to drink, and there's good complexity on here, and there's good transparency, and there's a high quality production process to back it up. So I think if you like Reposado tequilas and you're ready to level up the tequila that you're drinking, for $50, this product is definitely worth the money. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe even learned something. Please give this video a like and consider subscribing. If you'd like to be notified whenever I have new content on my website or this YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to my email newsletter. I'll leave a link below in the description. If you do not care about the video component of these reviews and brand educations, please consider subscribing to my podcast. It's just the audio material from these videos, and it's available on Spotify. It's available on Apple Podcasts. It's available anywhere you consume your podcasts. If you would like to support this channel further, please consider becoming a Patreon member or gift me a cocktail to the link below in the description. Thank you so much again for your support. If you have feedback about this video or about this channel, please leave me a comment or shoot me an email. I really value the feedback I get. I've adapted some of my video styles specifically because of some of the feedback I received. If you have a question, you can always leave me a comment, but you can also shoot me an email if you have a more detailed question. I personally read every single email that I receive, and I do my best to respond to all of them. I will leave my email below in the description. And also, if you are a supplier and you're interested in seeing one of your brands presented on this channel, please shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to have that conversation. Thank you so much again for watching, and as always, please drink responsibly.